only from the poem or the lines on the poem that you have read. It could also be a sort of a thing where John Donne is trying to bring down the mightiness, the power. It usually ends up in a disaster. What is a disaster? You may lose a friend. We compare, oh, we don't have bikes, we don't have cars, we don't have luxury, but we are not aware what is the pain that. Hello, hi, namaste, and welcome to Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence. I am Nandakishore, Faculty of English in Vidhyaashram, MYSURU. In today's session, I am going to discuss English Model Question Paper for first semester BCom and B.B.A. prescribed to MYSURU University students. Let us start solving the model question paper, and along with it, I am going to talk about the question paper pattern as well. The very first main you will get to see is 1-mark questions. And here you are going to face 15 questions, and out of 15 you are going to attempt any 10. Remember, you are going to face 15 questions, and out of 15 you are going to attempt any 10. Answer 10 of the following in a word, phrase or sentence each. The very first question is, who is the speaker in the poem Polonius' Advice to his Son? The answer is Polonius himself. Here the question is, who is the speaker, not the author or the poet. So it is obviously Polonius. You may get other questions from the same poem. Who is the poet of this poem, Polonius' Advice to his Son? Or maybe from which play is this poem taken from? It is taken from the play Hamlet. Or they may ask you, which is the act of this poem, or from which act is this poem taken from? It is Act 1 and Scene 3. So these are the questions you can expect from this poem. Let us move on to the next one. What was the purpose of Laertes' journey to France? Now, who is Laertes? Laertes is the son of Polonius, and his purpose of journey to France is education. Okay, he is going to France for the purpose of education. And as I have told you before, you can expect lot other questions. So be careful and don't presume that you're going to face the questions only from the poem or the lines on the poem that you have read. It could also be from the background of the poem as well. So be careful. Just in the previous slide, what I showed you is about the background of the poem. So kindly go through the text, and in the text, at the end of the poem or at the end of the prose, they have given the background of the prose, they have given the background of the poem, the background of the poet as well, and the background of author as well. So kindly go through that. Let us move on to the third one. What can give man better sleep than death? So this question is from Death Be Not Proud, written by John Donne. The answer is poppy leaves or opium or drugs. One answer is more than enough, but remember, a question could have multiple answers. So it is always better you know more than one answer. Next one, is death personified in the poem? Yes or no? Now you should know what is personification. Personification is giving life to inanimate things or giving life to non-living things. Here, death is personified. It is given life. It is yes. Fifth one, name any two images mentioned in the poem Barter. Barter is the poem written by Sarah Testel. Now, the two images, whitened waves and soaring fire. What does the poem Partition mainly deal with? Now, this is very important. Partition is written by W.H. Auden. You can expect a couple of questions on this poem. It could be on background as well, so be careful. The poem mainly deals with partition between India and Pakistan. It is about partition between India and Pakistan, or it could be in simple, it is about the partition on India. Now, who was Radcliffe? What was his mission? Now, Radcliffe was a lawyer from London, and his mission was to divide India. You can expect questions like, how long did Radcliffe stay in India? He stayed here for 7 weeks. And on what basis did Radcliffe divide India? On the basis of outdated census and maps. And how many judges were given to Radcliffe? He was given 4 judges to divide India. 2 were Muslims and 2 were Hindus. You can also expect questions like, who was the viceroy during the partition of India and Pakistan? It is Lord Mountbatten. So these are the kind of questions you can definitely expect in the semester. So be careful, kindly go through the poem line by line and word by word. And if you see anything important, kindly underline it, and you can expect or you can frame the question by yourself. Next one, what do the tiger and the sheep stand for? Now this question is from the poem Ajmal and the Tiger, written by Arun Kolatkar. His famous poetry collection is called Jajuri. Very important. Know the background of it. Now the tiger stands for politicians and sheep stand for people here. 9th one, how are the old trees used after chopping? So they were burnt in the fire. Now this is the question from the prose, the fig tree. Now if I can just go back to the previous slide and tell you about Ajmal and the tiger. In simple, they are going to ask you the questions like, how many tigers were arrested by the sheepdog? It is 51. Yes. And why did the tigers go to their king? Because they were hungry and they wanted to convey the message. And for how long did the tigers were hungry? For 15 days and 16 nights. So these are the kind of questions you have to prepare. Let us move on to the next one here. Which were the 2 stories mentioned by the little fat man? Again, the same chapter, the prose, the fig tree, Humpty Dumpty and Avede Avede. These are the 2 stories mentioned, and from this prose, there are plenty of questions expected. For example, questions like, which are the birds mentioned in the prose? The birds mentioned in the prose are swallows, storks, and sparrows. Swallows, sparrows, and storks. And how was the fig tree used in the ship or on the ship? They were used as masts, like a long pole where they used to tie the canvas and set sail. So these are kind of questions you need to frame on these answers. Now, why did the tiger people go to their king? The tiger people went to their king to inform the tiger king about their hunger, is also correct. To complain against the new sheep dog is also correct. Now, how many tigers were arrested? 51. 50 plus 1. 50 were the tigers and 1 is the tiger king, their leader. The twisted version of this answer would be, the sheepdog was present in how many places? The sheepdog was present in 51 places. Now, what was the profession of Harvey Maxwell? This question is from The Romance of a Busy Broker. The prose, he was a broker. Next one, how long had the young lady been Maxwell's secretary? For a year. She was the secretary for a year. Now, what according to C.V. Raman is the true elixir of life? It is water. So these are the 15 questions from the previous year's question paper, and you can expect the same sort of questions in upcoming semester. Let us move on to the second main. In second main, you're going to face 4 questions and you're going to attempt any 2 for 5 marks each. And what is this 5-mark question is all about? It is about annotate any 2 of the following you see. Neither a borrower nor a lender be, for loan oft loses both itself and friend. Now, how to answer the question? Annotate. Here is a short answer that I would like to give you. You are going to write, these lines are taken from the poem Polonius's Advice to His Son, written by William Shakespeare. Finished? And then you are going to talk about this poem is taken from, or it is an excerpt from the play, the tragedy Hamlet, Act 1 and Scene 3. Full stop. And then you are going to talk about the context. Who said these words? To whom? Who told these words? To whom? Now, these lines are told by Polonius to his son, Laertes, who is going to France for the higher studies. Now, advice given by his father to Laertes. Now, what is the line you're talking about? Neither a borrower nor a lender be. Now, Polonius is giving a piece of advice to his son not to borrow any money and neither to lend any money to anybody. Why? Because it usually ends up in a disaster. What is a disaster? You may lose a friend, or you may lose the money which you have given, or to make things worse, you may lose both. You may lose both the money and your friend. So don't ever borrow money and don't ever give money. So this is how we are going to explain the lines. And the same rule will be applicable to all the remaining 3 questions. Let us move on to the next question here. The second question is, for those whom thou think it thou dost overthrow, die not, poor death, nor yet canst thou kill me. Now here, what is the context? You're going to write the title of the poem. These lines are taken from the poem Death Be Not Proud, full stop. John Donne is the poet of this poem, full stop. What is the context? Here, in this poem, in these lines, John Donne talks about the idea or the concept of personifying the death. He goes on to say that you cannot kill me, I am not afraid of you, and he goes on to sympathize, show sympathy to the concept of death. Why? Because he says that he is not afraid of death anymore. Like other people, you cannot kill me. The moment you listen that death is nearing you, it is standing in front of you, you would die out of heart attack. But I, the poet says, but I am not a kind of that person who would be very afraid of death. Yes, he says, for those whom thou think it thou dost overthrow. You're going to overthrow the joy, the happiness, the life. Importantly, you're going to overthrow the life and you're going to sit there. Die not. Don't die, poor death, nor yet canst thou kill me. You cannot kill me yet. He goes on to describe, personify death. Next one. Next day he sailed for England, where he could quickly forget the case, as a good lawyer must. So these lines are taken from the poem Partition. Yes. And it is written by W.H. Auden. And what is the context here? Radcliffe's negligence, or simply Radcliffe is trying to do his job and go back to England. Maybe he is trying to dodge his responsibility. What was his responsibility? To come down to India, to come down to the country where he had never stepped before, to come down to the country where he knew nothing. Just briefed by the Viceroy, Lord Mountbatten, he comes down, stays here for 7 weeks, finishes his job, and he goes back. In the previous lines, you just observe next day, immediately after doing his job, his duty, he sailed for England. Why? Because he was afraid he would be assassinated, he would be killed by the people there, where he could quickly forget the case. What is the case here? The case is dividing the nation into 2 halves, as a good lawyer must. And here, these words are sarcastically told by W.H. Auden. Why? Because he is mocking at the lawyers, the profession of lawyers, where they make money. Whether they win or lose, they make money, they earn money. And here, in the case of Cyril Ratcliffe, they can expect you a right answer on the question, what is the full name of Ratcliffe? It is Cyril Ratcliffe, be careful. And what was his profession? He was a lawyer. Where did he come from? He came from London. And these are the kind of questions you can expect. And here, at the end of these words, W.H. Auden says, he was a sort of a coward who went back to England by finishing his job. Next one, we feel that means are more important than ends. This line is taken from the poem Ajmal and the Tigers. The poem is Ajmal and the Tigers, written by Arun Kolatkar. What is the context? And don't forget, I'm just marking, and I have already told you while solving the first question how to write the answers. These lines or this line is taken from the poem Ajmal and the Tigers. The poem is written by Arun Kolatkar, and we talk about the context. The Tiger King reminds Ajmal about the ability. Now, what is the ability here? Now, the tigers have been arrested by the sheepdog, and the sheepdog presents all these 51 tigers in front of Ajmal. And at that point of time, these lines are told by the Tiger King to remind Ajmal that we are not weak as you think. We are strong. We would have wiped out the entire herd of sheep in one blow, but we didn't want to do it because we just want to make sure that means are more important than ends. The consequences are more important. Okay, we were not worried whether we are arrested or whether we would wipe your herd of sheep very clean. So we don't want to get things complicated. He is assuring that he is strong. Next one. Third main, from the part of poems, you're going to face 4 questions. Yes. And out of 4, you're going to attempt any 2 questions for 10 marks each. Now, this is very important. This is essay type questions. Be careful. Now, write an appreciation of the poem Barter. You should know the meaning of the word appreciation. So you need to appreciate. You're not supposed to analyze. You're not supposed to critically examine. There are different words you will be facing in your examination. Now here you need to appreciate. You need to give the credit to the poetress here. To answer the poem is Barter. Again, when it comes to 10 marker question, you have to write these words, these sentences. This question is from the poem Barter. The poet is Socrates' tale. And what are the contents we expect from the students as the evaluators? So appreciate nature. Here we talks about life has loveliness to sell. Kindly by heart. Couple of lines from the poems. That is going to be very handy while you write 10 marks questions. So please, by heart, memorize a couple of or more lines if possible and write the same in your answers. You're going to appreciate nature. We talk about images, how the fire, how the waves come and hit the cliffs, and how the color changes, and how the fire soars and it goes up, and how the children look up the sky, look at the sky with wonder. And she also talks about a lot of other images. You're going to present them in your answers. So images which give pleasure, trade the feelings and time with nature. In simple, you're going to talk about the summary in different angle and you're going to give the credit to the poet. Second question. What good qualities did Polonius expect his son to inculcate? The context. Yes, the poem is Polonius' advice to his son. Poet is William Shakespeare. And what are the contents we expect? Make good friendship. Never borrow money. Never lend money. Dress up to the mark. Listen more and talk less. And make friendship. While you're talking about friendship here, we talk about what sort of people you mingle with. It is very important. I've just given you the key words here. You're going to elaborate it. Now, if you have any doubt saying that, sir, if we just write these words, do we get 10 marks? No, you don't. You're going to elaborate it. And you're also going to talk about the background of the poem. Now, where is this scene taking place? It is taking place in Denmark. And Laertes is going to France. And what is the purpose? You're going to talk about it. And what are the pieces of advices Polonius, as a father, gives to his son Laertes? That is how you're going to answer for the 10 marks. Next one, bring out the central theme of the poem Death Be Not Proud. The central theme is personification of the concept of death. Yes, the word death is personified. Death Be Not Proud, written by John Donne. Contents, powerlessness of death, mighty and dreadful. Death is nothing more than a form of rest and sleep. Donne is actually seeking to minimize death's importance. This is the very central theme. Here, he has given life to death, the concept of death, and he wants to tell the readers that he is not afraid of death anymore. He is not at all afraid. It is not mighty and powerful. It is a sort of a thing where John Donne is trying to bring down the mightiness, the power, the cruelty of the concept of death, and to make the readers comfortable that you need not be afraid of death, because death itself is not so powerful and mighty as you think. So important and in the overall scheme of things. Next one, last one, partition is a criticism on the partition of India. Discuss. Now this partition poem is a criticism, criticizing on partition of India. Discuss. W.H. Auden beautifully written this poem, Partition, and it talks about criticizing the method of partition. Now, Cyril Radcliffe, he came down to India and he had never been to India before. He had never come down to India before. And all of a sudden he comes down, instructions given to him by Lord Mountbatten, the last viceroy. He comes down, he takes the outdated maps, the census, and he goes on to do his job, locking himself in a big mansion where the guards were patrolling him, criticizing the method of partition on the idea of outdated maps and incorrect census. 7 weeks he stayed here and 4 judges were given, 2 Muslims and 2 Hindus. 2 Muslims and 2 Hindus. Radcliffe shuts himself in a mansion to keep away from assassination. He sails back to England. So how is that you're going to criticize? Now you have to highlight these contents. Why? You're going to talk about criticizing. You're not going to appreciate. The question is criticism. Criticize it. Point out what is bad there, and you're going to underline these words and tell why it is that you are underlining and why you think you're going to criticize, because nobody so-called lawyer who has so much of education, who has so much of common sense, divides the country, shatters the country based on outdated maps and incorrect census. It is wrong. You're going to criticize it. And that is exactly what you're going to highlight in your answer. Let us move on to main 4. And here you're going to face 3 questions, and out of 3, you're going to attempt any 2 for 10 marks each. This is given and this is attempt, right? The first one, the fig tree is a moral fable. Discuss. And you're going to talk about this prose, or this question is taken from the prose, the fig tree. Author is Hans Christian Andersen. This is a fable, and you should know the meaning of fable. The meaning of fable means the story which includes animal characters, and to give the moral or to give the message to the readers. That is called fable. Now, what are the contents we are going to expect from you? These are the contents that we expect in your answer. Now, what is that? The fig tree, where there was a small fig tree, it was very upset about itself, and it always wanted to grow taller and taller. It always used to compare with the tall trees, and the season comes where the tall trees were chopped and they were taken away from the forest. And there are a lot of scenes where it meets the swallows, the sparrows, the storks, which will come and inform the fig tree, the young fig tree, that he one day will be used as some instrument maybe or something. And they go on to narrate that what had happened to the previous trees. They were used as the masts, the poles on the ships. They have seen the world outside, and it starts imagining a lot of things. There are a lot of things which the fig tree will face in its life, and one fine day, the next season, it will be cut down, taken to the city, used as a Christmas tree. It enjoys literally the Christmas Eve, the evening, and it expects the same would repeat the next day as well. But it is a disastrous thing that it undergoes, because the fig tree will be put in the attic, and there it meets the mice and the rats as well. It goes on to narrate the story which it had heard from the little fat man, Humpty Dumpty and Avede. And finally, as the season pass, right, the seasons pass on, it will be brought down again and hacked into woods and burnt in fire. So this is the moral fable. What is that we learn out of this? We learn what is the moral there. The moral is we should not compare ourselves to other people. This is what we do as human beings. We compare. Oh, we don't have bikes, we don't have cars, we don't have luxury, but we are not aware what is the pain that they have undergone, or what is the pain that other people have undergone to earn that. And everyone will have their own day to come. So we need to wait until our days come. So let us not eagerly wish to grow taller and get rich all at once or overnight, which is very bad. Maybe out of millions of people, 1 or 2 might be blessed to become rich overnight, but definitely not everybody. So this is the moral, what we see from this prose. Next question, how is the romance of the busy broker depicted in the story? Now this is the question from the prose, the romance of a busy broker. Yes, and here are the contents, the words which we expect you to write. We have the theme of love, conflict, control, and gender roles. Maxwell is very much in love with Miss Leslie. Now this is very important here. Now she is the secretary, she was the secretary, and she works there. She has been working there for a year, and these are the contents what you have to present here. And Maxwell is a busy broker. He forgets things very easily, and he happens to marry Miss Leslie the previous evening, and the next evening he goes and proposes that whether she wishes to marry him. And Miss Leslie, she puts her arms across Maxwell and cries and tells that, did you forget that we got engaged, we got married yesterday evening? So that's how busy Maxwell is, and what would the profession of being a broker lead to in a person's life is all about depicted in this prose. Next one is, write a note on soil erosion and conservation of water as suggested by C.V. Raman. Now this is the answer. The prose is Water, the Elixir of Life. Author is C.V. Raman. The problem of soil erosion is of major significance. It occurs in step by step. We are talking about soil erosion and also conservation of water. How do we conserve water? The cutting up and washing away of earth will make agriculture impossible. Sudden burst of excessively heavy rain resulting in a large run of surplus water are the principal factor in causing soil erosion. Soil erosion is dangerous to agriculture. Some measures can be taken to check soil erosion. These are the contents what we expect you to write. So you're going to conserve water, save water, construction of bunds to check the flow of water, the practice of contour cultivation, and the planting of appropriate plants. Indian agriculture depends on rainfall. The problems of soil erosion and irregular rainfall are closely connected with each other, and main idea is to construct bunds to check the water flow, right? So these are the contents. So that is about 10-marker question. Now let us move on to language component. In the fifth main, you're going to face questions for 20 marks, and each question carries 1 mark. The first main under fifth main, first one, choose the correct homophones. Now you're going to choose the correct homophones and the questions will be as this. The first one, the dash of my shoe is damaged. Is it this sole or this sole? Now the right one is this. This is the wrong one. What is this sole? This sole means Atma, right? The second one, a dash of bread is thrown at the dog. Is it this or this? It is the piece of bread. What does this piece mean? Shanti, the inner peace. Third one, what is the train fare? Now, is it this fare or this fare? These homophones are very confusing, so be careful. What is the train? Fare, F-A-R-E. This fare means being too fair, complex. Fourth one and the last one, remember, under each main you're going to face 4 questions and you're going to face 4 questions. Each question carry 1 marks. The last one, the dash is cloudy today. The weather is cloudy and this is the grammatical content, weather. Whether you are going by bus or car. Next one, second main and a fifth main, fill in the blanks with appropriate articles. Remember, they are not going to give you any options because there are only 3 articles, a and the or the. Now, Suresh is an honorable man. And when we use a and the, a in front of consonants and in front of vowels and a, e, I, o, u. These are the 5 vowels. But here we still use and. It's because honorable, it is O. We don't say honorable. We don't stress on H. So it is an honorable man. Second one, my brother is studying in a university. Now you might be wondering, sir, in the previous slide you told we are going to use an in front of vowels. Then why are we using a in front of university? It sounds like university. You don't say university, it is university. So since Y is a consonant, we use A. An is also used in front of vowel sounds, not just vowels, in front of vowel sounds as well. Third one, Geeta is best student of our college. Geeta is the best. Why? Because we are talking about best here. Best, worst, tallest, shortest, worst. These are called superlative degree. In front of superlative degree, we use the. Last question. I met a European. Why? Because again, European, it sounds like you. So we use a, not an. Be very careful. C, under fifth main, choose the correct form of verbs. The students play cricket. And whenever we use plays here, the student, if I remove S and make it singular, the student plays is the right. Since it is yes here, it is not plays, it is play. If the subject is singular, then it is plays. If the subject is plural, then it is play. Second one, Sheetal dash completed her homework. Sheetal has completed her homework. When do we use have? Sheetal and her brother have completed her homework. Sheetal and her friends have completed her homework. Second one, he dash work properly. He did not or he does not. He does not work properly. When do we use do not? We use do not with respect to they. They do not, we do not, or simply it is don't, I do not, or don't. But when it comes to third person singular, he, she, it, he does not, he doesn't, she does not or doesn't, both are same. It doesn't work well. Be careful. Last one under C, the teacher dash teaching the lesson. Here it is very important. The teacher to is given here. The teacher is teaching. Is teaching is also fine. The teacher was teaching is also fine. Either you write is or was, because here it is not clear whether to use present tense or past tense. So in simple, you can use either is or was. To be will be used as is or was. Last, section D, under last main, fill in the blanks with appropriate prepositions. The farmer divided his property. What are the prepositions here? They have not given any options. Amongst his 3 sons. When do we use between? Between is used with respect to two. Between his sons. Between you and I. But when it crosses more than 2, it is amongst. Second one, children are fond of sweets. Third one, my brother came by train. It is not in train, came by train. Fourth, the policeman looked. It could be for the thief or at the thief is also fine. Looked for the thief, looked at the thief, both are correct here. The last main and the last section, read the following passage. Read the passage and answer the questions that follow. Now here is the passage and here are the 4 questions which carries 1 mark each. And one tip, one idea, one suggestion I would like to give to all my viewers: kindly don't read the passage first. Read the question set first and then you start reading the passage. Why should we read the question set first? Let me tell you, you read the question. Yes, what is the question now? Who was Abraham Lincoln? Abraham Lincoln was the 16th president of United States of America. He was born on, okay, we got the answer. You write the answer, simple. But what happens when you start reading the passage first and then coming back to the question? You read the passage first. By the time you read the last line, you might have forgotten the first 2 lines or first line or very important lines that you have read. So, read the question and then read the passage. Now, who was Abraham Lincoln? Abraham Lincoln was the 16th president of the United States of America. You write only this. Precision is what we expect. Precise answers. Don't write unnecessary words. Now, why couldn't Abraham continue his education? Now, let us go on reading. He was born on February 12, 1809. When he was 9 years old, his mother died. Then his father married another woman named Sarah Bush Johnson. She was very good to Abraham. She taught him at home to read and write. Abraham went to school for a very short time. He needed to stay at home and help his father on farm. He read every book he could find. Now, what is the question? Why couldn't Abraham continue his education? He needed to stay at home and help his father on the farm is the answer. Who taught him to read and write? It is, of course, Sarah Bush Johnson. His father married another woman named Sarah Bush Johnson. She was very good to Abraham. She taught him at home to read and write. It is Sarah Bush Johnson. The last question. When did Abraham lose his mother? So, when he was 9 years old, his mother died. Remember, this would happen. And don't expect that the questions you would read and the answer would follow after each answer. No, you may find the answer for the last question in the first line. So be careful. That is the reason why we expect you to read the question set first and then the answers. So this is how you're going to attempt your question paper in your first semester BCom and B.B.A. Thank you so much. That is it for today's session. I hope this session will give you some ideas and clarifications to attempt your upcoming English examination. Thank you so much. We'll meet you in the next session. Till then, keep reading. Have a good day. Take care.